Hello and good morning, everyone. I'm Mehul Lal from WebYog, and I would like to welcome you today to our fireside chat with Pinal Dave. This event is being recorded, so you'll be able to view it again if you'd like, and the recording will be available in our resource center on IDERA.com later this month as well. If you have any questions, please ask them in the question feature into the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. Okay, so now let's get started with today's chat. Let us first meet today's special guest, Pinal Dave, aka SQL Authority. Pinal Dave is a SQL Server performance tuning expert and an independent consultant with over 20 years of hands-on experience. He holds a Master of Science degree and numerous database certifications as well. Pinal, first off, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. So, I have been a follower of your work, and obviously you have been in the industry for over 20 years now. So
That's
for
true.
today's topic, my first question would be, and it's a very curious question that I often wondered, and because today I have the opportunity to ask you, I would start with that. So my first question to you would be, because you have been in the industry for over 20 years, what was the most challenging performance issue that you have encountered, and how were you able to solve it?
Oh, thanks a lot. Actually, this is interesting. So first of all, thanks, thanks for kind introduction, Mehul, and thank you everybody for coming here and listening us. And a lot of you are gonna to watch us afterwards in recording, so we know that. And hello to you as well, all of you. And Mehul, I think you just right away read my bio and just get out that question about 20 years, and said what is the most challenging thing I encountered in 20 years? I think that's a good question. So I'll just answer it this way. I think when I have to deal with a unique scenario where I have to convince client that this is the right thing, and you have to do that, that is what just creates a lot of challenges. Let me give you a simplest example. One time, a client got me a situation. They said, look, we are getting a poor performance in this query. Our execution plan is out of the way, and our CPU consumption is super high. Just fix all of them. I said, sure, I'll fix it. So I'll say, I'll start with the indexes. And they said, no, start with fixing CPU first. And I was like, that's not like a screwdriver kind of thing. I'll just take it and fix CPU. It's not going to work that way. If I can just fix one index, maybe that would fix other two things. They said, okay, we'll do index. It seems like we are nervous about changing anything. We will just change execution plan. Can you change the execution plan? Well, to change the execution plan, I have to rewrite the query or create index, things like that. And after a long convincing, trying on a demo and things like that, I was eventually able to convince them, let's just create one index. We created index on a join column. It changed the execution plan to much better performing execution plan, and now query started to take less and less resources, and eventually the CPU came under control. So my sometime challenge is to convince my client to take one right step. And they were like, oh, we don't know. How did we came into this situation? Obviously, simple answer is that they did not monitor it. If you just keep eye on the right parameters from the day one, you would have not faced this kind of situation. So yeah, those kind of thing, I find it very challenging when I have to explain client what is right for them.
Well, that is really interesting. So, and would you say that, if someone who is just trying to monitor their MySQL environment traditionally, by using or running scripts, a monitoring solution in that instance would be very beneficial because I'm sure, like you mentioned, you had to figure out manually a particular index, you have to sort it out,
Right.
optimize it. And if there were a solution that could just figure it out within a minute, you would have a better time not even explaining, but making them understand this is the issue and this is how we need to fix it. So would you say that a monitoring solution for when it comes to MySQL Server monitoring is an essential tool that
It
that all
it is
organizations should have?
No, it is definitely essential tool. And I think, see, monitoring is what we need, right? I mean, why do we keep many tools? Why do we keep many kind of vigilance around? Because we want to monitor things. And once we find who is the troublemaker, we can address it in the language, tone, or a mechanism which will help them to be better. So yeah, absolutely. Mo- Monitoring is essential.
Awesome. So, moving forward, the next question that I have would be, and this is an interesting question. And so, if you had to choose one database to work with for the rest of your life, which one would it be and why?
This is this is like you're asking me to choose my life partner. This is that kind of question actually. So funny enough, one database for the life. I would say maybe the text file, which I can use it any way I want to, or I would just better say, all know what it is. I can say, my favorite tool is open source. It should be scalable. It should be reliable or popular. This I can say in terms of technicality, and I can throw in a lot of things, but honestly, I just love MySQL. I mean, it's my favorite tool all the time. And I would tell you this way: there are three things I like about it. First of all, just like your life partner, MySQL is mischievous. Once fine day it's working, and second day it's not working, and or one configuration is just working today, tomorrow it's not working. The query which is not running today fast, tomorrow suddenly start working. It's mischievous. It just keeps on throwing us interesting problem solutions like video game. We just feel like, all right, let's continue. Let's keep on learning about it. It keeps on confusing. And just like your life uh, partner, it's also mysterious. I mean, I keep on learning new things out of it every day. Every day I figure new things. Okay, oh, this was the setting. Oh, this setting I fixed it. Now my query is running faster. Tomorrow the query is running slower. Why? Because the one query I fixed, but the second query I slow down because I changed the settings related to timeouts and things like that. Sometimes IO changes under the hood. Sometimes network keeps on throwing stones. So MySQL just keeps on giving me interesting milestones or the brownie points to keep on continuing. And the final thing about MySQL, I like it, is the philosophy of it. It's like a community and collaboration. Like all of you who are just attending, all of you who are going to watch this recording, and we are all together. We can always say that we were once together because there is a feeling of community. I can go out, ask for help, and I can go out and post a question anywhere, or I can talk to somebody who know a little bit of relational, would know about this tool. So you want to be always in a popular company, don't you? Want to. So yeah, that's how it is. So there you go.
Yeah,
That's the
well,
answer.
yeah, I'm glad you chose MySQL because we also work very closely with MySQL and we are a MySQL shop as well. And we develop quite a few solutions when it comes to managing your MySQL databases or monitoring your MySQL servers as well. And you mentioned a very good thing about MySQL community because I also work with a lot of users or clients who deal with MySQL. And I would attest to your point, which is that it is a very collaborative community and people do help out whenever there is any questions that a MySQL DBA might have. And one, if you ask even further, and if you're on a lookout for a monitoring solution as well, I'm sure you'll find someone who would be using our solution because our tools have been used by more than 30,000 plus customers worldwide, and someone or the other must be using SQL Diagnostic Manager for MySQL or Monio. So if you're on the lookout for a monitoring solution, I would recommend giving out a solution a try. uh, we are definite that we won't disappoint you when it comes to your MySQL monitoring goals. Now, changing gears a bit, now because you mentioned MySQL, so I had a MySQL specific question for you, and this is something that I often like because I'm a sales guy. I talk with a lot of MySQL users, and one challenge that I've also personally faced while having these conversations is what my question to you is, which is how do you approach MySQL performance tuning with limited resources or, say, a constrained budget? Are there any specific tools or technique you find particularly helpful in these scenarios?
Right. I think this is good one. So I think let's take about the three different kind of scenarios here. Like some people just want to use the community version and just want to stay in an extremely tight budget because the use case they are trying to address is like that. They don't want to spend much. They just, and that's okay. And if that is the case, right? Let's talk about that first. Then I think the three things you can do very, very easy, and that is what one should focus. First of all, prioritizing performance bottlenecks. You just have to find where actually the bottleneck is. It's a query, it's a hardware, or is it system component, it's operating system, it's like workload is too much, or what exactly which is stopping you. So there are different kind of views available in the MySQL itself, which you can use it to identify what is actually slowing down, what kind of weight is slowing down your system, and that is should be your starting point. Absolutely. While this thing is little bit hard to read, it's not so easy, but you know what, that's the choice, right? That's the game you want to play. And so I think it's totally fine. It's like a playing a video game. You find a problem, try to solve this one, and then you can go to the query optimization or efficient indexes or database configuration based on what actually you find. And now, if you have a limited budget, where you have a little budget, you are ready to spend some money. I think it is the time when you want to spend on your own education. Don't look anywhere else. Don't look at all. Just try to build your own knowledge. And how would you do that? Well, videos are there. I mean, those things are there. We know we can learn from the experts and things. But reading efficient documentation is also a good thing. And sometimes what I do is I just go out and read some of the product tools documentation because I know they have spent so much hours and they know what exactly to set. So I sometimes go and read like this particular product, which is built on MySQL. Okay, what are the best configuration they are suggesting? And then you can do that, and that's based on those suggestions. I can learn something from them. All right, if this tool running on MySQL with this configuration is best, maybe I can tweak that and make it work for me. And that's how it starts. And if you have little budget where you really want to focus on something else and MySQL is not your priority, then you can just go for open source monitoring tool or your own monitoring tool or third party monitoring tool, or maybe just mention the tool which is their own organization is building, and I have used it in past. You can consider that as well. So then three different kind of budget we can address. And if you have a lot of money, then you would not ask this question at all. You would have people to solve the problem for you. So yeah.
Great. And just to mention, if you are someone who has a little money as well, you can definitely consider a solution because we are a complete MySQL shop in terms of our tool has been designed ground up and it is specifically designed for all sorts of organizations. And that is the very reason why our prices starts with just $400 per server. So this is one of the most cost effective solutions that you would find in the market. uh, that goes pretty extensive into the MySQL ecosystem, has been around for 13 plus years. And if you're someone who's even working on a constrained budget, you should definitely look out for a solution like ours, which is Monioke. So changing gears a bit, because you mentioned in your previous comment about learning, and I'm pretty sure today in this session we would be having some or maybe a lot of users who are either up and coming DBAs or who aspire to be DBAs. So my question would be uh, on behalf of them, which is, as someone who has been working in the industry for over decades, what advice would you give to aspiring DBAs?
Okay. So this is something I'm gonna to go dig deeper into the memory lane and gonna to answer you what my very first boss once taught me. And that was awesome. So I would just share with you my own finding about it. Like, what did I learn in a 20 years? Actually, I have been practicing what I'm gonna to tell you now for last 20 years. And I think that has been helping out. So he one day sat me down and he started to talk about it. He said, embrace your inner Sherlock Holmes. He wanted me to be detective. He said, every time I ask you a question, do ask me question back, but do your research first. Go and find. Just learn first what is actually it is about. If you find a new term, just go on internet, search about it, read about it, and explore about it. And that's how it is. And second, so that was very interesting to me that be a detective. Go find, dig, dive deeper. don't be afraid and just do it and see what you can find it. And that was very inspiring to me. So I had written down those 5 things, and I used to read it for many years. Now it's just part of my life. And the second thing which he told me is that be a DBA ninja. And what he actually meant, because ninja is like they're stealth, they're agile, they're adaptable, they just do things, they just get things done, they're just there. And that's what they wanted. He said, if I give you a problem statement, if you're going to come back to me again and again, like how to do this thing, this is giving me a problem, no, find a solution, get things done, be adjustable, don't stick to your school times knowledge and things, and those kind of thing. I mean, that was amazing. Yeah, be detective, be like a ninja. And also at the time we had a new movie from Star Trek, so he was saying, yeah, don't fear the dark side. And I said, what does that mean? So should I be doing bad stuff? He said, no, 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 if accidentally you make a mistake, don't worry, things go wrong, it's okay. This is totally fine. You learn from your mistakes, and next time try to avoid it if you can. And if you do it again, well, repeat the same thing. Don't do it again. And eventually, you would fix it. And another, so this is Star Wars actually. Okay, somebody would just be mad right now on me. I mix up those things. I apologize to you guys. This is serious. Actually, yeah. I mean, yeah. And the Star Trek when we were talking about, he told me about the same thing. Be just be optimistic, like, and be logical, like Spock, and said, create your own language, and try to have your script box, keep everything with you. So he said, if you don't have to run the same script again and again, start building a folder, start moving things there, start building your own Wikipedia kind of stuff, and use it again and again. And I end up a 31 script in an Excel at the time with the index where I click and I find a script which I had to run it. And sometimes the same configuration, you keep on looking into it. So ultimately, it's all about finding your superhero persona. That's what he wanted. He said, what do you want to be? Which kind of DBA you want to be? You want a problem solver, you want a detective, and things like that. And I think this persona, you have to build it is as a beginner or even experts also. That what you want to be known as. Like people ask me, I say, well, I am performance tuning superhero. Maybe the same way. Some people can say, I'm a monitoring superhero. I'm a backup superhero. Find the thing which you want to do, or you can just say, I'm everything.
Well, those are really great points. Be flexible and always open to learn, and basically aspire to be, think about what kind of a DBA you want to be. And I'm sure the points that you have mentioned or the ideas that you have talked about would definitely help all our users who aspire to be uh, up and coming DBAs. So, changing gears a bit and diving a little into the MySQL databases, my next question to you is around the mistakes that happen or that could happen, because you mentioned about the DBA making a mistake. And so my question is a follow-up to your point there, which is, what are the common mistakes you see DBAs when working with MySQL databases, and how do you think they can be avoided?
So there has been a 4 time where I had a moments where I have to prepare my resume and I have to look for a new job. Well, sometime I looked, sometime I did not, and sometime it was just okay. I'm categorically remember these 4 things in my mind where I was extremely scared because I did something wrong. So I'll tell you the 4 things right now, and I would never forget it. One of them was the case of missing where condition. Sometime when you are running a query, you forget this where condition, highlighting where condition, and you run the query, and now your entire table is updated with a one value. I'm sure it happens to everybody one time or another time. Or sometimes your where condition is not narrow enough. That is the one mistake I keep on saying in the young kids still today, or sometimes even experienced people do it, even though they are confident. And this is one thing I think we should all remember, that always have a where condition, no matter what you are doing in an insert, update, delete kind of a behavior, because that really helps. I mean, otherwise you would have a nightmare. Case of missing where condition can keep many people awake in a night. And the third part is I think I have a trouble with many of the UI of the, take any language. Any UI which is managing the database. I think there is one thing keep on seeing repetitively. If you want to drop the database, sometimes there's an option to drop the database or delete the database. As soon as you click on it, hit OK, it just goes away. Because we are so much trained that we look for that thing. Okay, it will ask for that confirmation. Do you really want to drop it or not? And I will go back. And what happens actually? That confirmation doesn't show up in a 99.99% of the time. You eventually lose your drop database or just something bad happens. I think a lot of UI people who are making it, they should just add that thing, little confirmation, even though it annoys people. Do it, no problem. It's good thing. And so that's why I keep on telling about that there is a some kind of strange mystical power this particular prompt has it for dropping the database that should be always hidden, or it should be step away or somewhere, just not there next to select. That's just dangerous. Anyway, so that's one. And the last thing I would tell you is case where backup was not configured. I thought I'm continuously taking backup, but actually I was clicking on a null device. That means it was taken backup but not written anywhere. I was so proud on me that I am taking backup. My backup always runs fastest. They never had any issue. It is always finishing on a time, and I can do all this thing. It's that one day when I had to restore that backup, I learned my lesson. So these three things I would never forget, and I think I keep on saying many people. I can tell you, all of you all of you hundreds of guys right now who are watching this thing, I'm sure you should be doing one thing. After this webcast is over, just try to restore your one of your critical database backup. If you can successfully do it, great thing. At least one thing you learn from this thing, which is what I'm mentioning. So let's do one good thing of the day.
Awesome. I mean, these are really great points to consider, and the point about backup is something that even I see with the users that I work with, because we try to resolve their issue, and we tend to figure out that the backup was not made, which is something that really needs your attention as a DBA. So moving forward, the next question that I would have for you is around the misconceptions that people have around databases. So, what do you think are some of the most common misconceptions about database management that you have encountered throughout your career?
Right. So I think a lot of people answer of this is actually long, too long. So I don't want to go that long, but I will tell you this. So misconceptions like what does people think? People think that index is when you create, it will just improve the performance. That's not true. Index definitely increases performance in a certain kind of cases, but sometimes they just backfire on you. They would just hurt your system. Even to select also, or if you like think about this way, your table created 10 indexes. Now the insert into that particular table will run extremely slow, and when it runs very, very slow, if you try to select the data will be locked. Your select has to wait. We think the select is getting faster and things. No, select is getting slower. And now somebody just wrote in the chat window saying, but what happens if you use no lock kind of situations? Well, you can do that in a certain database. But the point here is if you just want to read the committed data, you have to wait. You have no other things. So I think the index is number one thing which I see. And second thing, which I continuously think people just think the size of the file has something to do with the performance. I have no idea where this thing came from. We are all on SSDs nowadays, and SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, or any other database, when they have to read the data, they would just go in and read the data from where they want to read it. It's not going to read the entire file, just look for it, going to swim inside the hard drive. Those things are not happening nowadays. And that's why you also need to have some indexes. So you directly go to that particular pinpoint and get out your particular fish which you just want to display on the screen. So things like that. So this kind of misconception, I say, oh, my file is continuously growing big. What should I do? Well, definitely look into your data and things. But if you're thinking that's bad for the performance, not always. That's not the case nowadays. And third and final thing, which I see a lot of people are confused right now, is configurations. they have a lot of misunderstanding about the configurations. Many times people just don't even understand what each of the configurations do, and they just keep on playing with it. Oh, it says to speed up. Well, it's speeding up something else. Increase the buffer pool. Well, does it mean better performance? When people see the word increase, larger, bigger, or any of this kind of positive showing the bigger mass, they think it's directly related to performance and you're going to get performance out of it. Not always. Like sometimes one of my clients just enable auto commit on every single thing, and that created a lot of issues of the transactions, and we have a lot of problems because of that. So I think those are the misconception. Larger is better and things like that. So I think that is what we need to get away from that. And yeah, that's the answer for you.
Great. I mean, I'm sure these pointers would go a long way, in for for people who have these misconceptions, and they can obviously learn from it, because you have obviously implemented these things and you're sharing these learnings from real life experiences. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So just zooming out a bit, because we talked about DBAs, what are the key areas where a DBA need to work on, or the misconceptions about databases. Now, my next question to you is around a monitoring solution. Suppose if in your opinion, what do you think are the most important factors to consider while choosing a database monitoring solution? Such as maybe, for example, we have a monitoring solution in place called SQL Diagnostic Manager for MySQL or Monio. So, what do you think are the most important factors to consider as a DBA when you're choosing a database monitoring solution for your MySQL environment?
So I have a 7 point answer here, very, very clear. Because many times this is what I exactly look for in tool. If tool doesn't have it, they will just not pass the test, right? So I work with MySQL, I work with other databases also, and I work with multiple organizations. So I have a very, very clear understanding. A lot of people sometimes ask me, can you just check if our tool which we have is the proper tool? Is this the tool we should be using or any other tool? Now, for me, it's very, very hard to just go and say, use this particular organization's tool, because then people just put you on the spot and thinking like, what kind of association you have with them? But actually, I have a 7 clear list which everybody should look for when you are going to look for monitoring tool for your preferred database. See if you can find those things in that tool, and that tool is for you. So let's start. So first one is the comprehensive monitoring capability. When I say comprehensive, what should be it? Well, definitely we should cover CPU memory, disk IO, query performance, and server health and various parameters along with that. But also, when I say comprehensive, it should look at your entire database in general. Like sometimes people say, oh, we don't check the backup part. Those things are not part of it. We only check indexing part. Sometimes people just say, oh, we only track your configurations. We are just small auditing tool, and this is the area we look for it. When you are looking for monitoring, the tool has to be monitored. One thing is depend on another one, and they should be associated with it. And after you monitor what you need, the second thing you need is alerting and notification. Many people just don't have that. They said, you can come to our tool and see it. Well, that's great. That's the point of the tool. But tools should also proactively somehow way to convey the message to you. It should be it should be not left upon us to be completely always looking for and being proactive. And third one, which is absolutely critical, is query performance analysis. You should be looking for it. You are in database field. You want to monitor your database. You want to have your query performance analysis. Like what kind of, which is a slow query performing, what is the bottleneck, how to optimize query, how to create indexes, and those kind of things. So that is definitely needed. And also the tool should be scalable. It should not be like, oh yeah, for this tool, for one product, and now for another one, I have to install, do, and this kind of thing. You need a compatibility or multiple versions as well. Like sometimes some tools I've seen only work with a one version and say, oh, for newer version of that particular database product, it's coming, it's coming. No, you need to have that kind of scalability and compatibility built in. And definitely it goes user friendliness and reporting. So I'm not going to elaborate on that one. And also, final thing which we need is support and documentation. If a tool doesn't have a good documentation, which I can go and read about it and understand, what they are communicating, I have trouble. One tool, once upon a time, I've seen in the past, that particular, they were always giving a wrong suggestion, which I believe it's incorrect suggestion. So I went and read the documentation, and I understood the person who built the tool has understood that particular feature absolutely other way. And because of that, they actually were giving a wrong suggestion. And that I figured it out because I read the documentation, and documentation had an incorrect communication there. I reported them, they understood. Eventually, new version had a little bit fixed. But all this we can do if we have a documentation. Many tools just doesn't have any documentation about the feature they use. It is very, very critical. And particularly, people who built the new tool, lot of organization, lot of startup comes up with it. They build the tool sometimes is great, but the documentation is so poor. I would say let's wait till the documentation gets right, near right. We don't want to look for perfection. Let's have something which is good enough for us to understand that what they know.
Well, those are some great points, and I'm very glad to hear these points because these are something most of them, because most DBAs they know their work and they kind of ask these questions to me as well, and I'm very glad to see that even you are on the same page because the tool that we have for MySQL monitoring covers each and every aspect that you have mentioned here. And for any of the users who is interested in MySQL monitoring, you do not have to take my word for it. You can just simply go to our website, webyoke.com, and look for Monyoke. You will be able to see every single detail and that Pinal has mentioned here, and whether or not our tool is capable of doing that. If you're someone who's not trying to take that trouble, and if you just like to see the solution for yourself, just simply write to sales@idera.com, and we'll be happy to arrange a custom demo for you, which suits your MySQL specific environment. So all you need to do is write to us or go to our website, webyoke.com. So great answer, Pinal. Like I said, it was very relatable, and this is something that even I hear. These questions are something that I hear from a lot of our users as well whenever they're trying out a solution. So moving forward and changing gears a bit here, my next question to you would be about prioritization because DBA job of a DBA is a demanding job, I'm sure. So my question to you is, how do you, as a DBA, how do you prioritize and balance the competing demands of database performance, security, and scalability in your work?
It's very hard. Okay. So let's say this way, I have not been successful in managing all these three. And it's hard sometimes to do. So when the product is small, you can manage everything. As products start getting bigger and bigger, there is a trouble. So I was just watching the other day. I was with my kid, with my daughter. I was just watching one of the movie, and it was very interesting. There was a Batman in it, and he had to save the city or a partner. He has to make a decision, and both the place was 30 minutes away, and he was in the middle in a 15-minute. Which side he will go? Will it go to save the partner, or it will go to save the city? I mean, he had a two choice, and he wanted to save both of them. Similar thing, like when you are talking about performance, I want performance, I want security, I want both of them. But what happens when I scale? What happens if the city gets bigger and the distance, the 15-minute distance is now 30 minutes distance, 50-minute distance? Maybe Batman is fast enough. Initially, he's able to cover both the sides, but then so I struggle. So sometimes when I'm doing a performance tuning, at the time I had certain security aspects I have to follow, and I when I do that, then performance suffers, and sometimes other way. Let's give a little more specific example. Encryption. Now you encrypt your data, your CPU consumption is going to be more, your performance is little bit degraded. You create better indexes on it, but still performance is degraded compared to the unencrypted data which you have it. Now what you want data to be encrypted because that's business requirement. You want data to be faster, well that's a customer's request. That's ultimately customer is the boss. So how do you manage? It's trouble. It's a constant battle. I face through, and I keep on fixing one thing, and second thing sometimes breaks, and sometimes I break a second thing and the first thing breaks. So I think it's a just evolving thing. I don't think so I'm ever going to win. I'm just going to have the running around between. goes to place, and as the scalability is issue, as the city gets bigger, I think we all DBAs has to just do their best to balance both of them. Yeah, performance and security are like in a two different hands, and we just have to find to be a good juggler.
To find the right balance is what I'm taking away from your answer. Well,
Exactly. I mean, just yeah.
a great answer, So, my next question is around, we talked about the current scenario and what all things that you need to do when it comes to someone who's starting out with as a DBA, or who's someone just currently working with MySQL databases. So my next question would be around somewhere around about the future, which is looking ahead. What do you see as the biggest challenges and opportunities facing that DBAs might face in the coming, say, next 5 or 10 years, and how can they prepare for them?
Preparation part is all about education, so it's very very hard. We just have to, if we be ready, we'll be prepared, and if we are prepared, we'll find a right solution at that time. But what are the challenges I say right now? I'll tell you this. One of the biggest challenge I see in the MySQL and another related databases world is a lot of people just still doesn't want to go to cloud. And you can count me one of them as one of the early person. Now I totally understand the importance of cloud. I also understand that I should not be fighting the future. I think maybe the starting from the cloud makes sense sometimes, also based on the business needs and how the technology ecospace and the platform and everything is being developed. So I think we should just embrace the cloud instead of just thinking about how to not go to cloud and other things. That's, I think, one suggestion I'd give it to everybody who is just right now here. I think cloud sounds like a word which is a 20 years ago, that cloud, but still there are a lot of in-premises installation which we cannot believe. And eventually, we all have to go to cloud or one central place, and it can be multiple clouds and a mix and match cloud, and it can be hybrid cloud and things like that. But just don't be afraid to experiment. Just don't stay in that mind frame that you just want to stay in premises. That's one. I think second thing which I would talk about is big data and analytics. It's again older word, very very old world, but I think a lot of people have still not understood what is big data, and particularly power of analytics is still underutilized. And I think whenever we build a product, whenever I think a DBA should just put this thing in front of us, like what kind of data we are collecting, what are we going to do with it? And as the data is growing, as data is getting bigger and bigger, security and compliance is every day there is something coming up. There is GDPR, CCPA, CISSP, and so on. There are so many acronyms I can throw in. I think yet I'm working with a client right now to implement something, and we are continuously reading the documentation. And one day, a client just said, "You know what? I don't think so. We can implement all of this because product itself is not supporting." Well, let's do whatever we can, and when the product supports, we'll do it, or we just build a custom solution for certain kind of things. But we can't just give up on all this. And the final thing which I want to add is AI, which we all, I was trying not to say that particular word in an entire thing, but we are all just jazzed up, isn't it? This is the new word. We are where we are talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and a lot of things which is coming in front of us. So yeah, I think let's take advantage of them. Let's be with them. Let's make machine work for us, and we do better stuff or what we don't want it to do. So I think, yeah, let's, as a DBA, we should be embracing all of this thing as we move forward, and we'll discover few new gems as we go in our journey.
Well, great, great answers as usual. Because I feel like one just has to look forward that they could see and just be well prepared for what they can currently see on the horizon. So, this pretty much brings me to the end of the questions that I have for you. What I would like to do right now is if you have any questions for me, you can go ahead and ask
That's
them.
exactly what I want. Sorry to cut you off, but before, when you say we are ending, no, we're not ending. All of you guys just stay
Yeah,
put. I have some question. I mean, why should he ask me all these questions? I mean, I think I'm going to ask you a question. So, the
sure.
very first question I have is, you keep on talking about Monyog and other tools which you are. Tell me three things which which makes me believe or us believe that they are different from, I'm not using word superior, but I'm saying different, or they are solving this particular unique problem, which other tools are not easily able to do it. Can you just talk about three things?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I have a very simple but honest answer to that. You know, the way our monitoring solution differs from any other solution currently in the market is the extensive reach into the MySQL system that it has. For example, a particular tool can do something. They could be very good at doing an aspect of monitoring. Say you mentioned about different aspects of monitoring. Somebody does a comprehensive analysis, somebody does great backup, uh, somebody goes really deep into the query analysis of your MySQL servers. Now that is all fine. Now you should, as a DBA, you should consider or choose our solution Monio, is because it is one of the only solutions in the market that covers all the phases of monitoring. What I mean by that is it covers proactive monitoring for you. The tool gets shipped with more than 600 plus monitors and advisors that has been assembled with the help of actual DBA feedback. These are not simple plugins. We work with a lot of DBAs on the field and we deploy these monitor groups with the help of their actual feedback. And these have been assembled for over a good period of a decade. And all these monitors and advisors constantly and proactively monitors the health of your MySQL environment and provides you with timely alerts and advices before things go wrong. So this is tool's way of doing proactive monitoring for you. You don't have to worry about, oh, seeing things when things might go wrong. You will immediately be alerted and you can take quick actions on that. Now, this is one aspect of monitoring. Second
So when you
point
say
is real.
when you say,
Yeah,
can you give a one example? Oh yeah, sorry, but can you say one example, like when you say before it happens? That's very interesting premises. Can you give a one example of it?
sure. I mean, suppose if you suddenly figure out, for example, suppose if you're running a website and you're on that particular website, you are going to launch a, say, suppose a Black Friday sale. You have done that, and suddenly you will see there is a high CPU usage and high volume of transactions that is going to happen. Now, the moment it starts to happen, more than the usual transaction that the tool has been able to identify for so long, it will immediately capture that and provide you with an alert that, hey, this is an unusual activity that we are seeing. You should definitely check out these monitor groups. Now, because you are aware of this operation possibility, you can quickly take corrective actions and you not make provide a bad customer experience because you are able to capture it in the front end, fine tune these monitor groups so that for the majority of the users, they would have a very good experience shopping with you.
Right. No, interesting.
Secondly,
Yeah.
secondly, I would say real-time monitoring. Sometimes you just want to figure out what's happening with your MySQL environment in real time. You're not aware of what could be going wrong. You just want to see what's happening. In such a case, we have a real-time monitoring feature that allows you to dive very deep into the ecosystem. It allows you to capture queries that take even less than 1 second to execute. So using that particular feature, you can pinpoint to the exact query and even the time at which that query was ran, which would allow you to figure out whether the problematic query that you have, problematic query is causing the issue in your MySQL environment. So you not only you can do proactive monitoring, you can do the real-time monitoring as well. And the third point, which is reactive or post-mortem exercise. Suppose if you want to figure out whether a particular query that you have in a MySQL environment, is that problematic query sporadic or acute? Is this something that I keep facing every now and then and this has been around in my ecosystem for a lot of time? Or this is something that is new? So what Monio does is it has a query analyzer feature that allows you to go back in time and figure out whether the problematic query that is running in your MySQL environment is sporadic or acute, because you can go and look for that single query, even that is taking less than 1 second to execute, and you'll be able to see the query details, whether or not there were any poor indexes that were used, And not only that, if the tool identifies that, okay, this is a problematic query for you, the tool would not only capture that for you, but it would, at the same time, it would give you an optimized query as well, so that you do not have to worry. Not only the tool was able to capture it, it also gave you an optimized query for you to execute. So I like to keep it simple when anyone asks me why should I use Monio? You should use Monio because it covers all the phases of monitoring, be it proactive, reactive, or real-time monitoring. So if you are someone who's on the lookout for a complete comprehensive monitoring solution, definitely check out Monio, and I'm sure we will not disappoint you.
Fantastic. All right, then I think I have one more question. I think it's addressed to both of us. I think it's coming from the audience, and this is a good one. So, what are the plans of artificial? Because we just mentioned the last question was about AI. What are the plans for AI component to be involved in a various monitoring tool? Now, I can't speak for various monitoring tool, but how about this? I would tell one thing: AI may word sounds new, but we all have AI one way or other way in all of our tools. It's already been there. It's not something new. When we are getting alerts, when something goes wrong, what Mehul you were telling us right now, that time we get alerts and things like that. Well, they are kind of AI, one kind of AI. Maybe it's a version 1, maybe version 01.
Yeah.
So I think let me just ask this question directly to you, because I think we don't have for other monitoring tools, but we have you. So tell us your plans to add AI component to Moniog, or is it already added, or what is going on when you said real DBS feedback? And that's not
Yeah.
AI, or is that AI?
Well, to some extent, it is. So, Monio uses machine learning algorithms to analyze historical data and predicts future performance trends. So, with this information, this is the information which Monio uses that alerts you about these potential issues before they occur, allowing you to take proactive steps to prevent downtime or slowdowns. So, in a way, I would say it is still in version one because it resembles more to NLP because it does historical and trend analysis of the complete data that you have in a MySQL system and analyzes these data and provides you with suggestions and recommendations to fine tune your MySQL environment so that no matter what kind of scale you would take your MySQL environment to, this historical and trend analysis that you have in place, which is basically the machine learning algorithm of Monio, would fine tune things for you and provides and predict things before things go wrong. So I would just say it helps you identify patterns and anomalies that might not be immediately apparent through manual monitoring. So,
Right.
for example, I'll just give an example here. If there is an unusual spike in the CPU or a sudden increase in the number of queries being processed, Monio can alert you to about that issue and help you diagnose that cause. So overall, I would say the AI-powered monitoring can significantly enhance your ability to monitor your MySQL environment with Monio, because you'll be able to get detailed insights and predictions, and Monio can help you identify these trends and predictions so that things do not go wrong before they actually go ahead and impact your application or website that you're running MySQL on.
Correct. No, that's good. That's fantastic. So in one way, what you are saying is what I was saying, that AI is already built in. It's just going to get better. It's just going to learn from itself. But we all have to also understand one thing is that if you go to any of the AI tool right now and ask few of the question very quickly, we also realize that it definitely needs human intervention, in human help, human intelligence, a little bit here and there. It's just still not independent. So yeah, absolutely. So AI is definitely going to help us, but ultimately DBS will be definitely needed eventually. So we still have a few more questions in our chat window. So you want to read them? If it's you can answer, you can answer. If I can answer, let's answer them.
Yeah, I think most of the questions would be for you. So if you want to just go ahead and answer the
Yeah,
questions that anyone has asked.
sure.
And for the attendees, I would say if you have any questions, because we still have some time left, please feel free to ask them in the chat box and we'll be happy to, Pinal would be happy to answer them.
Absolutely. You can ask in a chat box or so. Also, you can ask in a questions. Um, and yeah, that's fantastic. So, well, one of the question here is that it's about uh, question. Question is very simple. It said, They want to replication between MS SQL and SQL Server. So is there any tool or any way you can replicate or just copy? Replicate is word is used in general. It's not a replication process. How you can have the same data available from here to there real time on another one? Well, the answer is there is no right tool for that right now because this all portability between database is still not that popular thing. A lot of manual work is needed, and particularly for real world data from here to there, I think it's you just have to build a tool yourself. There is nothing out there which can just do everything seamlessly and easy for it. But maybe down the road, this is a great thing. Eventually, we'll just have a single database, maybe, and at that time, we will just all migrate from that to that single database, and maybe world will be the perfect. But we all know that is never going to happen. But yeah, let's hope. So that's the answer for you. Replication is not that possible between multiple databases. As of now, there are some tools, but some limited capacities and things. And there is one more question which is out there. In you said a lot of things which is philosophically, but just tell one thing which is most important skill for DBA to have, and why. I think I've been DBA for many years, and as a DBA, I think sometime we should just accept that we can be wrong too. This is the one skill we should have it. I don't know. Teach me, enable me. I think if we just have to do that sometime, and I think that would change a lot of things. When I was young, I was not doing it. I didn't learn that quickly. Now I understand that technology is changing faster than all of us, and we just have to keep an eye on it. Sometimes I keep on learning new things from when I upgrade version of my MySQL, and I learn new things, and I read a lot of documentation. So I think we should just have that kind of um, simplicity and humility that we should accept that the world is moving faster, and we just have to learn more things about it. And one question is, I think for both of us, we can just say this way: if you have to learn new things, where do I go and learn new things? If you're thinking I'm going to answer like some AI tools right now, no, those are the fancy things. Not they guide you a lot, but they can't teach you yet. I think it will come soon. Those were voice activated devices once upon a time. They were novelty. I think AI tools is little novelty. I still go back to the original documentation of the product, and I read their own demos. I study those things and I learn. As I mentioned to you guys, that if I'm using MySQL, if I find MySQL product company, a company which is using MySQL and building the product, I'll try to read how do they configure MySQL. What is the suggestion? I think I've learned most that particular way, and I think you can try once. It is very rewarding. So I think this is Mehul. What do you think? Where do you go and learn new things?
Well, I follow, obviously I follow your blogs to start with, and I go and try to find, there are a lot of blogs that I try to get my information from, and obviously videos, because there's a lot of information online, and there's not one certain place that you can go to gather everything. I have a MySQL newsletter as well that I try to follow to keep up with the latest up and coming latest things in MySQL. So these are the areas that I go to when I'm trying to uncover information about what's new and happening in MySQL or around open source database monitoring solutions.
Right.
One one question that I can see, oh, someone has is, what do you think about the future of, what do you think the future of database management looks like, and what skills will be the most valuable for professionals in this field?
I think it goes back to the what we just discussed. I think it's a great question. What do you think the future of database management? I think data future of database management is going to be very different. Once upon a time, we know that there used to be data centers. People used to go in data centers, changing the disk, the faulty disk we were removing, and there was alerts coming in midnight. We were running. Our database is not rebooting from the remote automated switch, which we put it, and now that has to be, we have to go to co-location center and enable those kind of things were there once upon a time. We all did it. I used to have a card also to go to co-location because there were security was very tight. Anybody cannot just walk in and there were so many things you have to pass through, right? And we used to call ourselves DBAs, database management, and I was very proud, and I'm still proud I did that. But now when I look at it, when start looking at the cloud and things, those things, those jobs and those works are gone. But I'm still DBA. I'm still busy. I'm still working, and I'm solving different set of problems. We didn't have a weight statistics. We didn't have an indexing problem in that big. Now the data is growing. We are collecting pretty much every single thing out there, and it's a weird. Like single request comes from the client web browser, and there are thousand things which we are capturing, processing, analyzing, and trying to make our client uh, more efficient and provide them more relevant information. So job of the DBA is continuously changing, and I think it's gonna to keep on changing. Right now, what we are doing, index analysis and things which we think is super critical, configurations and things which we think super critical, may be not there in a future. I just don't know what future has it, but one thing I can tell you, we will be all there as a DBA, and we will be keep on learning new things. So I think if we don't update ourselves, if we don't have that one particular skill about updating ourselves, accepting the new technology, I think we will be just not there. So obsolete, just gone, just poof. So I think that's what I would say. I think DBS job is going to be there. We are all going to be there doing something very, very interesting, which keep us exciting.
Great. I mean, great answer. I think we just have time for one last question. And this question is coming in. It's again a kind of a philosophical question, which is like, if you had a time machine, what advice would you give to your younger self when you first started working with databases?
I think one of my friend gave me very interesting advice. If I have to give a technical advice, I would just say, fundamentals should be super, super strong, and we should just all focus on fundamentals. I think I see a lot of people who just learn to build the queries by dragging and dropping, and they still don't understand the components of query building. So those kind of things we should have understood. Right now, when I'm talking about IOPS, and people say like, how do I measure IOPS and things like that? So they don't understand the fundamentals, and that's where the problem is. So if I have to tell you that learn one thing, I think make your fundamentals super strong, so pretty much everything comes easy when we are experienced. And I think that's the last bit from me.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. So again, thank you very much, Pinal, for joining us today, and to our audience for listening and asking in questions. If you'd like to learn more about how you can easily manage and monitor your MySQL databases, just go to www.webyog.com. It is webyog.com. We also offer a free 14-day trial with all of MySQL related solutions that would help you get started. And thank you very much. And we hope you will join us again next time. Thank you very much, Pinal.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.